Keanu Reeves had always preferred keeping his life simple. Despite being a famous actor known all over the world, he enjoyed moments where he could just be like any ordinary person. On a sunny morning in Los Angeles, he decided he wanted to look at some classic cars. It wasn't for a movie or an event, he genuinely loved cars. There was one car in particular that had caught his eye, a rare model that only a few collectors had. He thought it would be a good idea to visit a local dealership that specialized in luxury and vintage cars. Dressed in a plain gray hoodie, jeans, and sunglasses, Keanu walked into the dealership quietly. He tried to move unnoticed, hoping he could enjoy the experience without people bothering him. The showroom was large, filled with shiny cars that sparkled under the bright lights. The smell of polished leather and new paint filled the air. To most people, this place seemed exciting and glamorous, but Keanu was here simply to admire the vehicles and maybe buy one if he found the right one. As he walked in, a salesperson came over. The man did not recognize him immediately. "Can I help you, sir?" the salesman asked politely. Keanu smiled slightly and said he was interested in seeing one of the classic cars on the second floor. The salesman nodded and guided him toward the staircase. Upstairs, Keanu spotted the car he had been thinking about for weeks. Its polished silver body gleamed under the showroom lights. The interior was pristine, with soft leather seats and a perfectly maintained dashboard. Keanu leaned over, examining the details carefully. He asked a few questions about the car's history, who had owned it before, how often it had been serviced, and if all the documents were available. At first, the manager of the dealership didn't notice anything unusual. He was busy talking on the phone and occasionally glancing around at customers. But when he saw Keanu asking so many questions, he frowned. In his mind, he thought, "Who is this guy? He doesn't look like he can afford this car." The manager walked over, crossing his arms, his face showing irritation. "Is there a problem?" he asked, with a tone that was more sharp than polite. Keanu turned to him calmly. "No, I just want to know more about the car. I want to see all the documents before I make any decision." The manager's frown deepened. He seemed offended by Keanu's request. "We don't just show our documents to anyone," he said. "You're wasting my time." Keanu remained calm, explaining that he was genuinely interested in the car and that checking the documents was normal for any buyer. The tension in the room grew. The salesperson tried to calm the manager down, whispering something to him, but the manager ignored him. His patience had run out. He pointed toward the exit and said, "I think it's better if you leave." Keanu was shocked. He had never experienced anything like this. Being pushed and dismissed in such a way felt strange and unfair. "Excuse me," he asked quietly, trying to keep his voice steady. "I haven't done anything wrong. I'm just looking at the car." The manager, frustrated and angry, didn't answer politely. Instead, he stepped closer to Keanu and roughly gestured toward the door. In a shocking moment, he even tried to push him out physically. Keanu, taken aback, didn't resist. He knew that reacting angrily would only escalate the situation. He simply stepped back, keeping his balance, and said nothing. A few bystanders in the showroom gasped. Some of them whispered to each other, confused by what was happening. A few recognized Keanu immediately, and their eyes widened in surprise. Here was a famous actor, being treated unfairly in a public place, yet he didn't lash out or create a scene. Keanu calmly walked toward the exit, giving the manager a polite but firm look. He didn't shout, he didn't make a scene, and he didn't retaliate. Instead, he simply left the building, keeping his dignity intact. Outside, the sun was bright, and he took a deep breath. He wanted to shake off the awkwardness of the incident and focus on his goal, the car he had come to see. While walking to his car, he noticed a few people taking photos and recording videos. They whispered among themselves, pointing at him and speaking in excited tones. Some shouted, "Hey, that's Keanu Reeves?" Keanu smiled politely but didn't stop. He was used to attention but preferred to keep moving rather than attract more crowds. Once inside his car, he called a friend who shared his passion for classic vehicles. He explained briefly what had happened at the dealership, keeping his voice calm and even. His friend laughed lightly and said, "Well, some people just don't know who they are dealing with. Don't worry about it, we can find another place." Keanu nodded, feeling relieved to talk to someone who understood him. He realized that life often threw unexpected challenges at people, and it was how they responded that defined them. Today, he had faced rudeness and arrogance, but he had kept his composure. He had not let anger or pride take control. While driving to another part of the city where he had heard about a smaller but reputed dealership, Keanu thought about the experience. It was strange to be treated like a stranger when he was someone recognized worldwide, but he reminded himself that appearances could be deceiving. Just because someone looked casual didn't mean they were unimportant or unworthy of respect. Meanwhile, back at the original dealership, the manager returned to his office, unaware of the stir he had caused. A few staff members were already talking quietly about the strange event. One said, "I think he was a celebrity. I saw him in movies." Another shook his head, "Well, we shouldn't have acted like that. He didn't deserve it." But the manager shrugged, refusing to believe it mattered. Keanu, on the other hand, didn't want to dwell on the incident. He parked his car near the new dealership and stepped inside. The atmosphere was different here. The staff greeted him politely, and the showroom was warm and welcoming. For the first time that day, Keanu felt at ease. He started exploring the cars, asking questions about their history, their maintenance, and their performance. The staff noticed his genuine interest and responded with enthusiasm, happy to provide information to a knowledgeable customer. Hours passed as Keanu inspected the cars. He even took one for a test drive, feeling the smooth engine and enjoying the thrill of the ride. Unlike the earlier experience, this dealership treated him like any serious buyer. No judgments, no mockery, just professionalism. Keanu felt a quiet satisfaction. He realized that patience and composure were important, especially when dealing with difficult people. By the end of the day, he had made a decision. There was a rare car that matched everything he wanted. Its color, condition, and history were perfect. He smiled, thinking about how the day had started poorly but ended in the exact way he wanted. He paid the necessary amount and arranged for the car to be delivered. Driving home that evening, Keanu reflected on the events. The incident at the first dealership could have ruined his day, but he had turned it into a lesson in patience and dignity. He understood that kindness, calmness, and self-control were more powerful than anger or revenge. Most importantly, he had stayed true to himself, proving that even in moments of conflict, one could handle situations gracefully. That night, Keanu placed the keys of his newly acquired car on his table and smiled. The day had been challenging, but he had learned something important. It wasn't always about winning or proving someone wrong, it was about how you carried yourself, no matter what happened. And in his heart, he knew that was a victory in itself. After leaving the first dealership, Keanu Reeves walked to his car with calm steps. Even though the manager had treated him unfairly, he didn't let anger or frustration take over. He understood that reacting with rage would not solve anything. In fact, it would only make the situation worse. Keanu was used to being in the public eye, and he had learned long ago that patience and composure were far more powerful than conflict. Once inside his car, he started the engine and drove slowly along the quiet streets. The city around him seemed ordinary, yet there was a certain charm in watching life move at its own pace. People hurried by, busy with their routines, oblivious to the small dramas unfolding elsewhere. Keanu thought about the incident at the dealership, and instead of dwelling on the negative, he focused on what he could do next. He was still determined to find the car he wanted. While driving, Keanu decided to call his friend, a fellow car enthusiast who often helped him find rare and unique vehicles. He explained the situation calmly, making sure not to sound upset. The manager at the first dealership, he was unreasonable, Keanu said quietly. But that's okay. Let's focus on finding the car somewhere else. His friend chuckled over the phone. Don't worry about that guy. We'll find the car, and you won't have to deal with anyone rude again. Keanu smiled at the reassurance. It was comforting to have someone who understood both his passion for cars and his desire for respect in everyday interactions. As he continued driving, he started thinking about why the manager had reacted so poorly. Perhaps it was a lack of understanding, or maybe the manager had just been having a bad day. Either way, Keanu realized that anger from others often reflected their own insecurities or frustrations, not the actions of the person they were confronting. He decided to let it go completely. Holding on to resentment would only weigh him down. Soon, Keanu arrived at another dealership. This one was smaller but well known among car collectors for its rare and meticulously maintained vehicles. The building had a welcoming atmosphere, and the staff greeted him politely. For a moment, Keanu felt relief. The difference between the first and second dealership was immediately clear. Here, people valued respect and professionalism. Keanu spent the next few hours exploring the showroom. He moved slowly, carefully inspecting the cars, listening to the staff explain their histories, and asking detailed questions. Unlike the earlier experience, here he was treated like any serious buyer. No one judged his appearance or made assumptions about his ability to purchase a car. Instead, they seemed genuinely excited to share knowledge with someone who appreciated the vehicles as much as they did. At one point, a particularly rare model caught Keanu's attention. It was a classic car, polished to perfection, with a smooth, shiny exterior and an interior that looked as if it had never been used. He leaned over, running his fingers lightly along the leather seats and examining the fine details of the dashboard. The staff explained its history carefully, noting previous owners, maintenance records, and any restoration work that had been done. Keanu listened attentively, asking thoughtful questions that showed he understood and respected the vehicle. After examining several cars, Keanu requested a test drive of the one he liked the most. The staff agreed immediately, and soon he was behind the wheel, feeling the engine roar gently as he navigated through the streets. The experience was thrilling, but Keanu remained focused. He wanted to ensure that every aspect of the car met his expectations. He noticed the smooth handling, the precise steering, and the overall condition, feeling a quiet satisfaction in the car's excellence. During the test drive, Keanu thought about the first dealership again. He realized that, in life, people often judge others based on appearances or snap decisions. He had been wearing simple clothes and sunglasses, and the manager had assumed he was just another customer. Keanu smiled to himself, thinking about how mistaken that assumption had been. It reminded him of the importance of humility and fairness in everyday interactions. Back at the dealership, he continued asking questions and learning more about the car. He appreciated the patience of the staff, who answered everything without annoyance or judgment. Keanu realized that kindness and professionalism made a world of difference in human interactions. Unlike the first dealership, here he felt valued and respected simply for being genuinely interested in something he loved. As the hours passed, Keanu grew more certain that he had found the right car. Its history, condition, and feel matched everything he had hoped for. He smiled quietly, feeling a sense of accomplishment. The earlier incident that had started his day on a negative note seemed distant now. By maintaining his calm, he had been able to focus on what truly mattered, finding a car he truly loved. While finalizing the details for purchase, Keanu thought about the lesson he had learned. People's actions could be unfair, rude, or even aggressive, but reacting negatively only gave them more power. By remaining composed, he had controlled the situation, protecting his dignity and making wise decisions. It was a simple but powerful realization: self-control and patience could turn a difficult day into a productive one. Keanu arranged for the delivery of the car and thanked the staff warmly. He felt grateful for their professionalism and kindness. Even as a public figure, he valued honesty and respect above all. Driving home, he reflected on the contrast between the two experiences that day. The first dealership had taught him about unfair treatment and how to handle it gracefully. The second had shown him that patience, calmness, and respect could lead to a positive outcome. By the time he reached home, evening had fallen. The city lights twinkled, and the streets were quiet. Keanu parked his car and stepped inside, feeling a quiet sense of peace. The incident at the first dealership had not ruined his day. Instead, it had reinforced lessons he already valued: dignity, patience, and the importance of choosing how to respond to challenges. Later that night, Keanu sat quietly in his living room, thinking about the events of the day. He realized that life often presented unexpected obstacles, but the way one reacted defined the outcome. He smiled to himself, feeling proud not of any material purchase, but of the way he had handled himself. Even in moments of disrespect, he had remained calm and composed, proving that integrity and humility could always shine brighter than anger or revenge. He reflected on how he might share this experience with others, not for attention, but as a quiet reminder that kindness and patience always matter. Sometimes, the world may try to push people into conflict or provoke a reaction, but choosing dignity and self-control could lead to better results than any immediate retaliation. As he went to bed that night, Keanu felt a sense of calm satisfaction. The car he had wanted was now his, the challenges of the day had been managed gracefully, and he had strengthened his understanding of how to navigate the complexities of human behavior. Even in a world full of unexpected difficulties, he realized that maintaining composure and treating others with respect was a choice that brought its own quiet rewards. That night, Keanu slept with peace of mind, knowing that the incident at the first dealership was not a setback but a lesson. He had turned what could have been a negative experience into a story of patience, perseverance, and quiet triumph. In the morning, he would wake ready to enjoy his new car and continue his life with the same humility and calmness that had guided him through the day. After his successful purchase, Keanu Reeves returned home with a sense of quiet satisfaction. The rare car he had wanted for so long was finally his, and he had managed to handle the challenges of the day without losing his composure. Yet, even as he settled in at home, he could not ignore the fact that the incident at the first dealership had been recorded. One of the bystanders, shocked by what had happened, had posted a video online showing the manager being rude and pushing Keanu out. Within hours, the video started gaining attention. People shared it across social media, expressing surprise and outrage at how a world-famous actor had been treated so unfairly. Comments poured in, praising Keanu for remaining calm and respectful, even when faced with aggression. Fans admired his patience, noting that it took true strength to walk away without retaliating. Keanu, for his part, did not immediately react to the online attention. He had no desire to seek sympathy or use the situation for publicity. For him, the important part had already been accomplished. He had maintained his dignity and acquired the car he loved. Yet, quietly, he watched as people's reactions to the video began to grow. The story of the dealership incident started appearing on news sites and local media outlets. Headlines read about the humble actor treated rudely and Keanu Reeves remains calm despite confrontation. The dealership, meanwhile, started facing criticism. Customers who had seen the video expressed shock and disappointment. Some wrote online reviews criticizing the management, while others promised never to visit the dealership again. The staff inside the building felt the tension rising, realizing that their manager's behavior could have serious consequences. A few employees approached the manager quietly, suggesting that perhaps they should apologize or at least handle the situation more carefully. Keanu, however, stayed focused on other things. He continued to enjoy his new car, taking it out for long drives in quiet areas away from traffic. He appreciated its smooth performance, the way the engine responded to every command, and the thrill of driving a vehicle he had admired for so long. These moments of joy reminded him why patience and composure were so important. By not reacting with anger at the first dealership, he had been able to focus on what really mattered: his love for cars and the experience of owning one that was truly special. Even as the story gained popularity online, Keanu received messages from friends and fellow actors expressing support. Many congratulated him not on the car, but on the way he handled the situation. They praised his patience, humility, and maturity. Keanu appreciated the words, but he did not feel the need to respond publicly. For him, actions were far more important than words. He had shown integrity by acting calmly, and that was enough. The next day, as he checked the news, Keanu saw that the story had reached a wider audience. Videos, posts, and articles highlighted how he had been treated unfairly, yet remained composed. Fans shared messages of admiration, emphasizing how his behavior was a lesson in humility and self-control. Many people commented on how rare it was to see someone respond to rudeness with patience, instead of anger. Keanu reflected on all the attention, realizing that the incident had become more than just a story about a car dealership. It had turned into a story about respect, patience, and dignity. People were inspired by the way he handled himself, and he felt a quiet sense of responsibility. Although he did not seek fame or recognition, he understood that his actions could influence others in a positive way. Meanwhile, the dealership began receiving calls and messages from customers, reporters, and even other businesses. Their reputation started to suffer, and the manager finally realized the impact of his behavior. He felt embarrassed and frustrated, knowing that his actions had caused negative publicity for the company. A few employees suggested he issue an apology or at least reach out to Keanu, but the manager hesitated, unsure of how to approach someone so respected. Keanu, however, had no interest in confrontation or revenge. He had already won the personal victory of maintaining his composure. Instead of focusing on the negativity, he continued enjoying his life, appreciating the small joys that came with owning a rare and beautiful car. He took long drives along scenic routes, visiting quiet towns and exploring new places. The car became a source of relaxation and inspiration, reminding him that challenges in life could be handled gracefully. As the days passed, more stories about the incident emerged. Fans shared experiences of how Keanu had remained humble and kind in other situations, reinforcing the image of a man who valued respect and patience above all else. People were inspired not only by his behavior during the dealership incident, but also by the way he consistently treated others with kindness and humility. In the midst of all this attention, Keanu received a private message from a young fan who had watched the video online. The fan wrote about how seeing Keanu remain calm in a difficult situation had taught them a valuable lesson about handling conflict. They explained that they had been struggling with anger and frustration in their own life, and Keanu's example had inspired them to approach situations differently. Reading the message, Keanu felt a quiet warmth in his heart. This was the kind of impact he valued most: not fame or recognition, but the ability to influence others positively through actions rather than words. The story also reached other car enthusiasts and collectors. They praised Keanu for his passion and knowledge, noting how his genuine interest in vehicles had guided him to the right purchase. Many admired the fact that despite being a celebrity, he had approached the process with the same care, patience, and respect as any other serious buyer. This combination of humility and passion made the story even more remarkable to those who followed it closely. Keanu continued to receive messages from fans, friends, and even strangers, all expressing admiration and appreciation. He responded personally to a few, offering simple words of encouragement and support. He wanted to acknowledge the positivity, but without making it about himself. His goal was always to inspire quietly, through example rather than self-promotion. During this time, He also reflected on how the incident could have gone differently. If he had reacted with anger or frustration, the outcome would have been very different. The story would have been about a confrontation, not about patience, dignity, and kindness. Keanu realized that choosing how to respond to challenges was one of the most important lessons in life. Every situation presented a choice, and handling things with composure and grace often led to better results than reacting impulsively. The dealership, finally recognizing the damage caused by their manager's behavior, decided to make amends. They reached out to Keanu privately, offering an apology and explaining that the manager's actions were not representative of the company's values. Keanu accepted the apology quietly, understanding that everyone made mistakes. He was not interested in making a public statement or creating further conflict. For him, the personal satisfaction of handling the situation gracefully was more than enough. In the following weeks, Keanu continued to enjoy his car and focus on the things that mattered to him. He went on road trips, explored scenic areas, and even shared quiet moments with friends, appreciating the simple joys of life. The dealership incident became a story he could reflect on, a reminder of the importance of patience, humility, and integrity. It had started as a challenging experience but had turned into a valuable lesson, one that reinforced the qualities he already valued deeply. By the end of Part 3, Keanu had not only acquired the car he had wanted, but he had also strengthened his understanding of life's lessons. He realized that challenges were opportunities to demonstrate character, and that maintaining composure in the face of unfair treatment was a victory in itself. The incident at the first dealership could have been a source of anger or frustration, but instead, it had become a story of patience, dignity, and quiet triumph. Through it all, Keanu Reeves remained humble, kind, and focused on what truly mattered. He had turned a potentially negative experience into a positive one, inspiring others along the way. And though the world watched and admired, he continued to live quietly, letting his actions speak louder than any words. A week after the incident at the first dealership, Keanu Reeves had fully moved on. He was enjoying his rare car, taking it on peaceful drives through winding roads outside the city. The attention from the viral video had slowed down, but people were still talking about it in quiet admiration. For Keanu, however, life was about more than just buying cars or handling disrespect calmly. He had always believed in using his success to help others in need. That week, Keanu was invited to a small charity event being organized in Los Angeles. It was a fundraiser for children who needed medical care, and Keanu had quietly supported this foundation for years. He thought about the car he had just purchased and smiled to himself. He loved the car, but he loved helping others even more. A thought formed in his mind: what if he donated the car to the charity event? The idea grew stronger with each passing hour. Keanu had always been known for his generosity, often giving away his own possessions to support a cause. For him, material things were never as valuable as the happiness of others. So, he called the event organizers and offered to donate the rare car for auction. The organizers were stunned and overjoyed. Such a donation would surely raise a significant amount of money and bring hope to many families. In the days leading up to the event, the story of Keanu's donation spread quietly through the charity community. The organizers decided to keep it low profile at first, not wanting to turn the fundraiser into a publicity event. Keanu agreed. He didn't want cameras or reporters to focus on him, he wanted the focus to be on the children and the help they would receive. On the night of the event, the atmosphere was warm and welcoming. Families, donors, doctors, and volunteers gathered in a decorated hall filled with lights and music. Keanu arrived in his usual humble style, wearing simple clothes and greeting people with a warm smile. There was no red carpet, no flashing lights, just genuine kindness and shared purpose. When the moment came to announce the special auction item, the audience gasped as the host revealed it: a rare car, donated by Keanu Reeves himself. People in the room were shocked and touched by the gesture. Murmurs of admiration spread through the crowd as they realized this was the same car he had recently purchased, the one people had been talking about since the viral video. Bidders quickly lined up, excited to own not just a beautiful car but also something connected to such an act of generosity. The auction began with energy and excitement. Each bid climbed higher than the last, as collectors and donors competed to win the car. Keanu stood quietly to the side, watching with a calm expression. He wasn't focused on who would win or how much the car would sell for, he was focused on the children who would benefit from the funds raised. The auction ended with a winning bid far higher than anyone expected. The crowd applauded, and the organizers thanked Keanu sincerely. The money raised would provide life-saving medical treatment, equipment, and support for many children and their families. Some parents approached Keanu with tears in their eyes, thanking him personally for his kindness. He listened to their stories with patience and compassion, offering gentle words of encouragement. Meanwhile, reporters outside the event caught wind of the donation. When asked about it later, Keanu kept his response simple and humble. "This isn't about me," he said softly. "It's about helping children get the care they need. I'm just happy I could contribute." As the story spread, people admired not only his generosity but also his humility. Many contrasted his actions with the way he had been treated at the first dealership. Instead of holding a grudge or seeking revenge, Keanu had chosen to do something good. The viral video of the dealership incident had shown his patience, and now the charity event demonstrated his kindness. Together, they painted a clear picture of a man who valued people more than possessions. At the dealership where the confrontation had happened, employees read the news in silence. Some felt ashamed that they had judged him unfairly. Even the manager who had pushed Keanu out realized the magnitude of his mistake. He had assumed Keanu was an ordinary customer with no means to buy an expensive car, but Keanu had quietly purchased a rare vehicle elsewhere and then donated it for charity. The contrast between arrogance and humility was undeniable. A few days later, the manager decided to reach out privately. He wrote a letter apologizing sincerely for his behavior, admitting that he had judged Keanu unfairly. When the letter arrived, Keanu read it quietly and smiled. He didn't feel anger or bitterness. Instead, he appreciated the courage it took to admit a mistake. Keanu responded with a simple message of forgiveness: "We all have difficult days. I hold no grudge. I hope you're doing well." This response surprised everyone at the dealership when the manager shared it with his staff. They were expecting anger or silence, but instead Keanu's reply showed nothing but grace and understanding. Employees began to see how powerful humility could be. They understood that respect should be shown to everyone, regardless of how they looked or what they wore. Back in his own life, Keanu continued to avoid attention. He didn't talk much about the dealership incident or the charity donation. For him, the real victory was helping children receive the medical care they desperately needed. The rare car he had bought, a car that had brought him joy, was now going to bring hope to families in need. That meant far more to him than driving it on quiet roads. Friends who heard about the donation praised him, but Keanu brushed off their compliments with his usual quiet smile. "It's just a car," he would say. "If it can do some good, why not let it?" For Keanu, material possessions were temporary, but acts of kindness had a lasting impact. The children who benefited from the fundraiser sent drawings and thank you notes to Keanu. He read each one carefully, touched by their simple messages. Some drew pictures of cars with smiling faces, others wrote about how the money would help them go to school or receive medicine. Keanu felt a deep sense of fulfillment knowing that his small gesture had made a real difference. In the weeks that followed, people continued to share the story online. Fans admired not only his calmness during the confrontation but also his selflessness afterward. The story became an example of how to turn a negative experience into a positive one, not through anger or revenge, but through generosity and compassion. Keanu, however, never saw it as anything extraordinary. To him, helping others was simply the right thing to do. He believed that if you were fortunate enough to have success and resources, you should share them with those who needed them most. The dealership manager's behavior was long forgotten in Keanu's mind. What stayed with him was the joy of giving and the gratitude of the families he had helped. That night, after the charity event, Keanu returned home and sat quietly by his window, looking at the city lights. He thought about how quickly life could change. One moment you are treated unfairly, the next you are making a difference in someone's life. He realized that holding on to anger would have only hurt him, but letting it go and choosing kindness had brought peace and joy not just to him but to many others as well. After the charity event, life returned to a quieter pace for Keanu Reeves. The viral video of the dealership incident and the story of his generous donation had already traveled far, inspiring countless people around the world. Yet Keanu himself paid little attention to the fame or praise that came with it. He valued quiet satisfaction over public recognition. What mattered most to him was that the children benefited from the auction, and that the lesson of patience, humility, and kindness had reached others. Days passed, and Keanu continued enjoying his car, but not in a selfish way. Each time he drove it, he reminded himself of the joy it had already brought to others. The experience gave him a deeper understanding of the importance of letting go of anger and negativity. The incident at the first dealership had been a challenge, but instead of holding on to bitterness, he had turned it into an opportunity for good. Meanwhile, at the dealership where the confrontation had occurred, the manager faced the ongoing consequences of his behavior. Negative reviews, social media criticism, and word-of-mouth complaints had damaged the company's reputation. Staff members were unsettled, realizing how one person's impatience and poor judgment could impact everyone. The manager began to understand that respect and humility were essential in any interaction, regardless of a person's appearance or social status. The manager decided to take action. He called Keanu Reeves to apologize personally. The conversation was calm, and Keanu accepted the apology with grace. He did not express anger or demand compensation. Instead, he offered forgiveness and understanding. "We all make mistakes," he said softly. "I hope you have learned from this as much as I have." The manager was humbled by Keanu's response. Not only had he treated someone unfairly, but that person had responded with kindness, teaching him a lesson in dignity and humanity. The story of forgiveness spread quietly online. People admired how Keanu had not only avoided retaliation but had also chosen to show compassion. It became an example of how strength often lies in humility and patience, rather than in confrontation or revenge. Many fans wrote letters and messages, sharing how the story had inspired them to approach conflict in their own lives with greater calm and understanding. Keanu, however, remained focused on the larger picture. For him, the most important outcome was not public attention or praise, it was the impact on others. He continued to support the children's charity, making sure the funds from the car auction were used effectively. He met with the organizers to discuss future initiatives, brainstorming ways to help even more families in need. Each meeting reminded him that true success was measured not by personal gain, but by the positive change one could create in the world. In the weeks following, Keanu's story inspired others in unexpected ways. Local schools and community organizations invited him to speak about patience, humility, and kindness. He shared his experiences without boasting, simply explaining how he had faced unfair treatment and chosen to respond with dignity. His words resonated with many, especially young people who were learning to navigate difficult situations in their own lives. The children who had benefited from the charity auction continued to send letters and drawings. Each note reminded Keanu of why he had chosen generosity over anger. He kept the letters in a small box on his desk, reading them quietly whenever he needed a reminder of the difference one act of kindness could make. He realized that even a single gesture could ripple outward, affecting lives in ways he could never fully measure. Meanwhile, the manager of the first dealership worked to repair the company's reputation. He began training staff on customer respect, emphasizing patience and professionalism. The incident with Keanu Reeves became a lesson for everyone in the organization. Employees were reminded that judging others based on appearances or assumptions could have serious consequences. Slowly, the dealership regained trust, but the memory of the lesson stayed with the manager, shaping the way he treated customers in the future. Keanu himself returned to his routine. He continued acting, spending time with friends, and exploring his interests, including his love for cars. Yet he carried with him the quiet knowledge that one day, an unexpected challenge had turned into a meaningful lesson. The experience reinforced his belief that kindness and humility were far more powerful than anger or revenge. Reflecting on the events, Keanu thought about how easily situations could escalate if one reacted impulsively. He had seen people in life get caught in cycles of frustration and conflict, often over misunderstandings or poor assumptions. His own decision to remain calm had prevented that cycle and had even created an opportunity to help others. The dealership incident, which could have been remembered as a negative encounter, instead became a story of dignity, patience, and generosity. Friends and colleagues often asked Keanu about the experience. He would smile quietly and say, "Sometimes, the best thing you can do is step back, stay calm, and choose kindness. It doesn't mean you're weak, it means you're strong enough to rise above." His words, simple as they were, carried weight because they reflected actions he had taken in real life. People admired the way he lived by the principles he spoke about. The story also influenced fans in subtle ways. Many began sharing messages about patience, humility, and forgiveness, inspired by Keanu's example. Some even started volunteering or donating to causes in their communities, using his story as motivation to make a positive difference. The ripple effect of one calm and kind response had grown far beyond what anyone could have predicted. In the end, Keanu Reeves had turned a moment of unfair treatment into a story of hope and inspiration. The car that had caused conflict had become a tool for good. The viral video of the dealership incident became more than a shocking moment, it became a symbol of dignity, patience, and kindness. Keanu's actions showed that challenges in life were not obstacles to happiness but opportunities to demonstrate character and make a difference. Even the first dealership, once a source of embarrassment and regret, became a reminder that learning and growth were possible. The manager, humbled by his mistake, had changed his approach to others. The employees had learned to value respect and patience. And Keanu, with his quiet strength and generosity, had taught everyone around him that true power lies not in confrontation, but in humility and compassion. As the sun set over Los Angeles, Keanu sat quietly in his home, thinking about how one day could unfold in unexpected ways. A rude encounter, a moment of unfairness, could have led to anger, frustration, or resentment. But by choosing patience, dignity, and generosity, he had turned that day into one of the most meaningful experiences of his life. The lesson stayed with him: challenges are inevitable, but how you respond defines who you are. And with that quiet reflection, Keanu felt content. He had not only found a car he loved but had transformed a moment of conflict into an opportunity to help others, inspire kindness, and demonstrate the power of humility. His story would be remembered not for the push or the incident itself, but for the strength, generosity, and grace with which he responded. In the end, that was the real victory, an enduring reminder that patience, dignity, and kindness could change the world, one act at a time.